Good day, ladies and gentlemen. All right, welcome, ladies and genitals, to another live stream. Lots to discuss in today's live stream. How is everyone doing? Hope everyone's having a good time FOMO buying and panic selling, because I certainly have been. There is much to discuss. Market has been dumping, and many people have been panicking. So in this video, we're going to be going through some technical analysis, talking about what I see happening in the market. And also, guys, if you're interested in that dope beat I've just been listening to, check out Bufo on the Beat on Audius. Audius, for those who don't know, is a cryptocurrency version of Spotify, and one of our regular viewers, Bufo on the Beat, shout out to you, man, or to this person. It makes some sick beats on Audius, so make sure you go check them out. That's Bufo on the Beat. So guys, welcome. Hope everyone is doing okay. In this video, we're going to go through some TA with Bitcoin, just update my thoughts on the state of the market, talk about some key off-chart factors that we need to be aware of, some very interesting on-chain indicators, kind of do a rundown of some of the major alts, and also go through some major news of the day that we might just go through first, because some very, very big news. And then I'll also go through some gem buys I'm considering. So every live stream, we're going to try and do a new thing where at the end of every live stream, I'm going to introduce you guys a brand new low cap. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a low cap, but just a project that we think is undervalued, interesting, and worth being on a watch list. So folks, if you like the sound of that, do me a favor, like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit that bell icon to be notified of new uploads. Messin is not here today, but that's okay. We'll have him back tomorrow. He's currently out gem hunting in France. So, without further ado, let's start talking about what's going on in the market, because Bitcoin is seemingly ready to have that infamous death cross. Ooh, the death cross. Everyone's panicking. Everyone's panicking over this death cross. For those who don't know, that is a bearish crossover between the 50 daily simple moving average and the 200 daily simple moving average. I personally Don't pay much attention to this. I don't place a lot of weight in it for a few reasons. These moving averages are lagging indicators, and it just tells us what we already know, which is things are bearish. Thanks. That doesn't really clarify or bring much clarity to the state of things in future direction, in my opinion. What does bring clarity to future direction is what we're doing right now, which is super, super interesting, which is what are we doing? We formed a clear base of resistance here. We broke down bearishly, had a bear trap, pumped up, broke down again, then broke out bullishly above our resistance level. And what are we doing? We broke out and we're just coming back down to retest the breakout point around the breakout, at the very least on our trend line here. This is super, super, super common to have a breakout, come back down and retest the trend line, retest the breakout point. So I think the main takeaway with Bitcoin in the short term is quite simple. And again, folks, we gotta understand what Bitcoin's doing. Bitcoin is leading the market. It is Bitcoin's market right now. If Bitcoin dumps, the rest of the market's gonna dump. If Bitcoin pumps, the rest of the market will pump as well. So I think the main takeaway is clear. As long as Bitcoin holds above this trend line, basically holds where it's at right now, then that is a very, very good sign. In fact, I've begun, not financial advice, but to scale into a long position as a swing trade, because I do think come Monday, Bitcoin has a good chance of retesting this 41K 200 daily EMA right at $41,000, maybe around $40,700. This is the key inflection point. Super price reactive. Here it acted as support. Here it acted as resistance during our most recent pump. That's exactly where we found rejection off of. So for me, if we want Bitcoin to be bullish again, we need to flip this level. And come Monday, I think we have a good shot of doing it, especially if, that's a big if, I could be wrong, we could dump further, but if we hold the line here, it is a good piece of news. Now, looking here at a daily chart, I've highlighted with these vertical lines here the last 4 Mondays. So every Monday we typically pump, and I think this is due to futures options being closed on Mondays and market movers not wanting to move the market too much on weekends, because any pump we have on a weekend typically comes back down. Because what happens is if we pump on a weekend, we form a CME futures gap here. What a CME futures gap is just futures trading that again is closed on weekends, and so we typically fall back down to close these gaps formed on weekends. So that's exactly what we did. We had a gap, we came back down to fill, we retested the breakup point. Happens very, very often. And so given that the last 3 out of 4 Mondays have had a pump, I think maybe something similar is likely to happen, especially if we can hold the line on our trend line, which we're sitting on right now. See here, this was last Monday, had a pump. Last Monday, we did not have a pump. We actually broke down from support. But again, this Monday pump, 3 out of the last 4 Mondays brought a pump. And so again, come Monday, once the market's a little less spooked to move on weekends, if we're sitting on support, if we put in a higher low, then I do think Bitcoin has a fighting chance of retesting these levels here. And so that is why I've scaled into a long. Folks, not financial advice. I could be wrong. The second I finish this live stream, Bitcoin could dump to the low 30,000s. You never know. This is a very, very high risk setup, but I'm kind of shooting for it, and depending on what chart you look at, it'll be slightly different. But this is a risk to reward ratio of 1.96%. So basically, I'm risking 7% to make 14%. So not the worst probability setup. Again, this is high risk too, because you never know what happens on a weekend. Weekends are typically bearish. It's just we're just starting to go into the weekend, so we need to keep that in mind that weekends are typically bearish. As well, we have futures, a bunch of futures expiring. Come what is this? Let's see here. We have a bunch of futures expiring come the 25th. So next week is a big inflection point, and these future expiries are a big deal because it's essentially once these futures expires, a bunch of these whales will choose whether to put or call Bitcoin, and it's essentially an inflection point or kind of a test of the sentiment of the market. Because depending what way these future options are exercised, it'll be kind of confirmation of market sentiment, whether bullish or bearish. So I think of these futures options closing as kind of market resets, or at least like a temperature check of market sentiment. So we got to be aware of this big inflection point come the 25th. Again, we got to kind of hold this trend line. We may not. The key thing is to put in higher lows. As long as we put in higher lows, that's fine because there's endless layers of resistance above us. Rejection at any point should be anticipated, just like I've been saying in the last couple of weeks. So I'm putting a stop loss below kind of 33,300. Again, kind of just around 7% stop loss. Each lower low that we put in, that's when I get worried of Bitcoin. So if we put a lower low below here, lower low below here, lower low below here, so 33,300, 31,000, and 30,000 are the key lower lows that I'm looking out for. That if we make a new lower low below each one of these levels, I'll move further into stable coins, take profits on my positions, and that's when I'll get worried. So that's what I'm looking out for with Bitcoin. Looking at the short-term time frames, look at the 3-hour here. Stochastic RSI having a bullish crossover. MACD taking up. Looking at the 2-hour here, we are seeing strength building up in the lower time frames. MACD building up, weighted MACD curving up. RSI very much oversold. Stochastic RSI, which is great for calling shifts and trends, having a bullish crossover in the oversold region. Again, moving over to the hourly, we're seeing that strength build up as well in the lower time frames. So lower time frames are looking bullish. We are sitting on support. We held it as support, and if we go back from Hakanashi candles to regular candles, we can see here we're seeing pretty, we're seeing wicks to the downside, wicks to the upside as well, but we're seeing here clearly a neutral candle marking a shift in the trend, and we're seeing that in our indicators. The lower time frames are building strength, so we still have to see if that carries over to the higher time frames. Again, 4-hour RSI went from overbought to oversold, bullish crossover from the stochastic RSI here, so we are seeing some signs of a potential trend reversal. Ultimately, guys, we need to get past this weekend. I think the true test of bullishness will come this Monday, the start of the new week. And it's going to, this is a super, super, super interesting time, folks, because if things are to turn bearish, this weekend is the time for it to happen. Because look, we're having our correction, we're testing support, we're very close to these previous lower lows. And so if the bears want to take control of this market, it's likely to happen this weekend. So again, guys, keep an eye out. And I see someone over here saying last few weekends have been more bullish. I don't think so. I very much disagree with you. Again, this is a daily chart of Bitcoin. We can see by the candlesticks that these vertical lines coincide with Mondays, and we can see what comes before Monday, the weekend. And every weekend before Monday was pretty bearish. Yeah. So 3 out of 4 times the week, 3 out of the 4 last weekends were bearish. So the majority of the time, last 3 out of 4 Mondays were bullish. And so again, if we can kind of hold our trend line here, we could even continue to trend down as long as we hold this trend line. That's fine. So we could, again, fall all the way down on 34,000. That's fine as long as we put in these higher lows. Again, guys, come Monday, if we put in a higher low, I think the bulls are going to have the confidence to retest 41K. And I think the second retest of 41K has a much better chance of breaking out bullishly. Because right now, the market's just testing itself. The market's asking itself, are we ready to flip bullish? Are we going to go down bearish? This weekend, I believe, is the bear's chance. Are we going to put in these lower lows? Or are the bulls going to hold the line? And if we do, come Monday, I think the bulls will have the confidence to retest 41K. And so that's why I'm in this swing trade. Again, I could be wrong, not financial advice. Please understand that leverage trading is extremely, extremely risky. Just don't trade with me. Come up with your guys. Please don't blindly follow what people do. I could very well end up being wrong. This could dump further. So just understand that this is a very high risk move. Now, look, something else to be aware of with Bitcoin dominance here. I do think Bitcoin dominance, which is a very, very good gauge of the state of the altcoin market, is pretty much due to go up regardless. Because if Bitcoin has a relief rally, that's likely to affect the Bitcoin pairings, it's likely to affect liquidity, and it's likely to move, people are likely to move liquidity into Bitcoin because Bitcoin's moving right now, it's Bitcoin's market. And so if Bitcoin has a relief rally, Bitcoin dominance will move up. If Bitcoin dumps further, alts will drop harder, and therefore Bitcoin dominance will move up. So I do expect in the near future for Bitcoin dominance to break out bullishly, come back up to retest around this 50 percentile zone. And when do we know when it's time to move back into alts, or when do we know when alts are ready to recover? When Bitcoin has a pump and then meets resistance and then starts putting in lower highs and lower lows. Once Bitcoin pumps, meets resistance, and puts in a lower high and a lower low, that's when we know when it's time to start shifting back into altcoins, or at the very least understand when altcoins are likely to start moving as well. Because whether Bitcoin has a relief rally or Bitcoin pumps, alts or Bitcoin dumps, alts will temporarily, and the keyword is temporarily, suffer because again, Bitcoin moving drastically affects liquidity, it affects the pairings, it affects market sentiment. So it will affect the altcoin market as well. In terms of when to take profits, how do you know when to sell out of this market? One of the factors that I'm looking out for is a lower low in Bitcoin dominance from the previous cycle, because for those who don't know, again, Bitcoin dominance is the total value of Bitcoin in comparison to the total value of all cryptocurrency. So this cycle, there's more cryptocurrencies, there's more alts, and there's more use case for those alts. So therefore, I think it's likely that we will have more value in alts this cycle than last, and therefore more likely to put in a lower low in Bitcoin dominance than the last cycle. So once we put in that lower low, or even get near these regions, I do think that is when I will start to take some profits in my position. So we come up here, final rejection, come back down. Once we put in a lower low below this level here, that is when I will start taking profits on my altcoins. Moving on here, guys, some very interesting stuff going on with the total cryptocurrency market cap chart here. We are still within this this wedge formation. This is very, very telling because I think this is an exact reflection of the market sentiment within the cryptocurrency markets. Guys, look, total cryptocurrency market cap is just moving sideways and sideways and sideways within a tighter and tighter range. So the bulls aren't really in charge. The bears aren't really in charge. The market's really just looking out for the next macro move. Is it to the upside? Is it to the downside? Again, following Bitcoin in these higher highs and higher lows will tell us what's more and less likely. But basically, we're seeing the uncertainty in the market being reflected in the total cryptocurrency market cap because we're just within this range that's getting narrower and narrower and narrower, and we can't just move sideways forever. Eventually, we're going to break out. And I think this week, this Monday, this weekend, we will have a major, major test of the state of this market. We have max 20 days within this wedge before we break out. Likely to have a move out of this thing sooner rather than later as well. If we take a look here at the DXY, for those who don't know, the DXY is very, very relevant when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto because the DXY is a tracker of the dollar. This is a dollar index, the value of the US dollar. Whenever the US dollar rises, other currencies, including Bitcoin, typically suffer again because of the pairings. And whenever it falls, other currencies, including Bitcoin, typically benefit, again, because of the pairings, market sentiment, liquidity, that kind of thing. So we've been experiencing a substantial rally in the dollar as of recently, although I do expect us to run up against resistance here in the near future, something like this, based off this top and this top here, kind of a range of resistance here. I also do think we were forming this macro diamond pattern and had a bearish breakdown, finding support on the bottom of our diamond. So I think these are kind of the major support and resistance levels to look out with the DXY. This level above acting as resistance, and this green box below acting as support. So if we find rejection off this reason, it's just one more reason to be a little bit more optimistic about Bitcoin in the future of the market. Because again, whenever this thing rises, Bitcoin suffers. Whenever this thing falls, Bitcoin benefits. At least, most of the time. No one factor is the end all be all, but it is one factor, one significant one to keep an eye out for. So again, finding rejection off the zone is very good. Finding support off this zone is very no bueno. Lower lows in the DXY is what we want to see. And eventually, I do think this is a very macro bearish pattern that we did break down from. So if we find rejection here, there'll be confirmation of the downtrend. And so we will see how that goes. Also, now that I'm looking at this, I think we can also draw something like this, which I do think is quite relevant. So I think we also could anticipate another layer of resistance above us with this upward trend line here that may act as resistance as well. Again, coincides perfectly with this previous peak here. So lots of resistance above with the DXY. If we break out bullishly, that is bad news bears, no bueno. Just one more bearish factor to consider. And folks, guys, if you like this live stream, do not forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, and smash that bell icon to be notified of new uploads. The more likes we get, the more likely YouTube is to share this live stream. We really appreciate it. So smash that like button, folks. Now, I also want to bring up what could be either a very dangerous thing for Bitcoin or something that is super, super bullish for Bitcoin, which right here, we're looking at the amount of shorts specifically on Bitfinex, and we're seeing a massive, massive rise in shorts on Bitfinex. Bitfinex is very similar to bybit. For those who don't know, it's a leverage trading platform. And so what we could experience, okay, before I get to that, what this is telling me is, whether Bitfinex is telling of the market as a whole or not. I think what's valuable here is just the fact that there's a lot of shorts, a lot of negative sentiment in the market, and everyone thinks Bitcoin is going to go down. Everyone thinks Bitcoin's going to enter a bear market. And when everyone's thinking the same thing, everyone is usually wrong. And so, guys, we may very well enter a bear market, but given the fact that so many people think we're going to enter a bear market, and we're seeing it in the numbers, we're seeing massive, massive spikes in shorts, it makes me think that most people are wrong, because most people are wrong most of the time, because they have to be. Because if most people were right most of the time, there would be no money to be made. It's because there are a lot of people being wrong that if you have the above average insight or above average luck to call things correctly, you can make above average market returns. The only way you can outperform the market is by having above average luck or above average insight, and you get that above average insight by seeing past what the majority thinks. And again, guys, the majority is usually wrong. The majority is short. The majority is bearish, which makes me very, very bullish on the market. But again, guys, we need further confirmation. Now, one model that I kind of I want to keep talking about because it is a very interesting model when it comes to doing price predictions on Bitcoins here, which is the stock to flow model. So the stock to flow model is a ratio between the current supply and incoming supply of a asset, which Plan B created this price prediction model, which is called stock to flow, which is again a ratio of the current supply, incoming supply, paired with how the market cap reacted to that, and then they extrapolate future price predictions. And according to Stock to Flow, which is again one of the most popular price predictions models for Bitcoin, it predicts a Bitcoin in the hundreds of thousands of dollars this year. And whether this model is correct or not, perfect or not, right or wrong, this gets across the point that there's multiple cycle indicators that suggest that this bull run has more upside potential. And so, guys, let me know if we're having some audio issues. BI is saying fixed sound. If you guys want to let me know if you guys can hear me correctly, that'd be great. That way I know whether or not to continue. We sometimes do have audio issues. I believe it's with our recording software. We check it before every live stream, and there's always some issues going on. So, guys, let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Sounds fine to me. Okay, perfect. If it gets too egregious, you guys let me know in the comments if the sound's too bad. If not, I'll just proceed as is, and we'll check it out. Sounds good. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'll keep going here. So, audio seems to be okay. So there's with Stock to Flow, there's two different, actually perhaps a couple different stock to flow models at this point, but two of the most popular ones, and again, are the ones by Plan B, and Plan B was the person who originally made the stock to flow model. There's many other people who make their own versions, but Plan B made two popular models, which is the original stock to flow model and the stock to flow model X. And the stock to flow model X predicts a higher Bitcoin price than the regular stock to flow model. Looking here at the Glassstone stock to flow model, it's predicting 100,000 Bitcoin just over this cycle. And looking at this chart, it's predicting kind of like, well, what is this, like 220,000? It's well above 100,000. So why is that? It's because the stock to flow model X, which is by Plan B himself, says that this is the updated stock to flow model that he believes is more relevant, incorporates gold and silver in data as well, because according to Plan B, he believes that gold and silver data have some correlation with Bitcoin, and so he's incorporated that information into his model. So that's why the stock to flow model X predicts a higher priced Bitcoin than the stock to flow model. Either way, again, it tells us the same thing, which we have more upside potential. Stock to flow model X here, which again has historically kind of called overperformance and underperformance state of the market. This red dot means we're overbought. Blue dot means we're oversold. Red dots typically have coordinated with cycle tops. And what have we not had? That red dot. What have we not had? That cycle top. And so, again, this is not the end-all be-all. It's just one factor, one model that may be wrong, but it gets across the point that we're seeing everywhere, which is more upside potential. And if we can hold the line here, if we can flip 41K, then we can test these moving averages here at 42, 43K. And if we can flip that, we can test this trend line. And if we can get above this trend line based off all-time highs and next lower high, get above it, come back down and retest it, hold it as support, then we can continue on our merry way all the way up to 100,000, 200,000, and beyond this cycle. But what we need is confirmation, confirmation, confirmation. Again, guys, I see everyone in this market talking about their feelings, talking about their intuitions, and while it's fine to share your wisdom and your inklings, at the end of the day, it's price action that will tell us what's more and less likely. And higher highs makes it more likely the uptrend will continue. Lower lows makes it more likely that we will collapse further. So wait to see what the price action tells us. Right when we're in the middle of this range, there's no telling what could come next. There's absolutely no telling. So we have to wait and see what the price action tells us. As well, according to Plan B himself, he's created kind of these support bands, these support ranges, kind of a Bollinger Band situation of the stock to flow model. And the last times we hit the lower extremities of our support lines for the stock to flow model was the bottom of the bear market in the bottom of the pandemic. So again, guys, this is telling me that we're quite overextended on the downside and we have more upside potential. Also, looking here at the crypto fear and greed index, the market is still extremely fearful, and the market is again typically wrong. And the last times we were this fearful, bottom of the bear market, and when the global pandemic first hit back in March 2020. So I don't think I don't think it's justified to be as scared right now as back then. So I am holding out for hope, but at the end of the day, we need to see what the price action does. As well, taking a look here at this model, I think this model perfectly illustrates where we find ourselves today, which is in kind of no man's land, make it or break it territory. We're really just waiting for a bit more macro confirmation, because at this point, there's so many reasons to be bullish, so many reasons to be bearish. How do we get clarity in the market? Well, we need further macro market confirmation, and we see that reflected in the state of the market. So right now, what we're looking at is the net unrealized profit and loss chart, but entity adjusted for long-term holders. So right here, so the Nupol, the net unrealized profit and loss chart, is a very popular chart for calling cycle tops and bottoms for Bitcoin. Whenever we enter that blue euphoria zone, typically indicates us being overbought in cycle tops. Red indicates oversold in cycle bottoms. And so this chart that we're looking at right here is specifically geared towards long-term holders. And I don't know exactly how this chart is calculating long-term holders, but let's just assume that they are they do define long-term holders in somewhat of a correct manner. Bottom line here is what's important is the fact that long-term holders entered a blue euphoria zone. And we're coming back down to retest this historically reactive zone. And the last times we did this was the top of 2017, but also the lull and the 2013-2014 bear market, bull/bear market or cycle. So will we do something similar to 2013-2014 when we have a double top, or is the cycle ending? We still need to see. And again, guys, no one model is the end-all be-all. The Nupol adjusted for long-term holders isn't again the only thing we should go off of, but it's just one interesting chart that I think the main takeaway with this is that it really helps bring home how uncertain the market is and how we really need to wait for confirmation, because we don't know if we're going to have a double top or if this was the end. We still need to wait. Now, something that is very interesting is that the long-term hodler net position change has been shifting to the upside, meaning long-term hodlers are now accumulating Bitcoin. Long-term hodlers, according to Glassnode, are defined by wallets holding Bitcoin for 155 days or more. So typically speaking, during uptrends, during parabolic growth, long-term holders sell off their positions and they reaccumulate during the dips, because long-term holders are typically not retail and thus at least smarter money. So the fact that we're seeing long-term holders start to accumulate again is potentially a very, very bullish sign. So those are some of the things I'm looking out for with Bitcoin. As well, we have a Paraguayan politician talking about introducing Bitcoin legislation in the coming month, which is very interesting, guys. Again, the long term is clear. Direction is going one way. More and more companies adopting and using crypto. More and more countries adopting and using crypto. We saw El Salvador adopt Bitcoin. We have Tanzania in talks of telling their bank to start adopting Bitcoin and crypto. Now we're seeing Paraguay. And next week it's going to be another country. Next week it's going to be another country. Direction is going in one way. We're on the right side of history. We're in the right trade. What's uncertain is the short term. The short term is very uncertain. But to be honest with you guys, fuck the short term. Who gives two shits about the short term? Because folks, the long term is where the money is at. Those with a long term perspective are those that make the most return on investment potential, and also the long term brings the least risk and the highest reward. So why would anyone be in this market for the short term? Because the short term brings the greatest risk in the least reward. So who gives a fuck about the short term? Guys, imagine if you would have bought here, you wouldn't be giving two shits about this correction, because you'd be sitting pretty on what kind of pump here. on an 850% pump. That is the power of having a long-term perspective in this market. Who are the people who have been the most successful in this market? It's the people with the longest term outlook. If you're trying to just get in and out week to week, month to month, you're bringing on a lot of risk. In the short term, brings the least rewards. It's, again, guys, we gotta have a long-term perspective, because yeah, sure, we can maybe enter a bear market, sure, whatever. Worst case scenario, let's say we do enter a bear market. Let's assume the worst case scenario. Well, Bitcoin has historically moved in 4-year cycles because of the halvings. Every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin being produced roughly gets cut in half. And based off the previous halvings, we've always had a uptrend in Bitcoin afterwards. Because just like how stock to flow shows us, there is a correlation. There is a connection between the scarcity of an asset and demand ever increasing and the price of that asset going up over the long term. Because whether or not stock to flow is exactly correct, it does get across the point that there is a relation, a correlation, a connection between something being finite, scarce, demand ever increasing, and price increasing alongside. So again, guys, we're on the right side of history, but short term might be bad. Worst case scenario, I think we have to wait until 2024, 2025 for the next bull run. Because again, we've moved in these 4-year cycles historically based off of Bitcoin and the halvings. And what happened in the past is not guaranteed what will happen in the future, but is likely to play some influence. Next halving is likely to be March 2024. And so come March 2024, 2025, I think that's when the next bull run is likely to pick up. So worst case scenario, we just have to stake, yield farm, and earn that yield until 2024, 2025. So that is what I'm saying with Bitcoin. Now, enough of my ranting. Let's see what you guys are saying. Antstack is saying 2024 Bitcoin halving, the price will bit the moon. Look, guys, different models are predicting 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 Bitcoin this cycle. I mean, next cycle, 2024, 2025, I think we could see $500,000 to $1 million Bitcoin, roughly 5 years from now, 2024, 2025. So that's what I'm looking out for with that. Hey, Jet 2009, welcome. He's saying, whoa, Messin would say, chill, bro. Hit the likes, folks. Let's get the likes rolling for the algorithm. Very, very true, folks. There's 105 people watching, only 26 likes. That's telling me only a quarter of you guys like this live stream. Only a quarter of you guys want me to keep going. So here's what I'm going to do. If and when we hit 50 likes, I'll immediately drop what I'm doing and share with you guys one low cap gem that I'm very excited to accumulate next, something that's on my watch list. Folks, this thing is very, very exciting, very, very undervalued, so smash that like button. More likes we get, more likely YouTube is to share the channel, share the live stream. So if you like us, want to support us, smash that like button. Now, moving on here, let's talk about some news, because there's some very, very important news stories today. One of the major news stories is that Grayscale, one of the largest funds for crypto investing out there, is considering opening up new investment vehicles for a bunch of different altcoins. So they're looking into 1inch, Aave, Bancor, Cardano, a bunch of these Curve, Compound. This is very, very bullish news here. Polygon, Polkadot, Ren, Reserve Rights, Solana, SushiSwap, Synthetics, Tezos, the Graph, Uniswap. So this is a very, very big deal, because this is essentially a stamp of approval from the hedge funds, saying these projects here have a fighting chance of continuing these projects here have a fighting chance of having some staying power, institutional interest. Whenever there's institutional interest, there's the fighting chance of long-term staying power. So very, very, very interesting choices to see what made it on this list. Very, very interesting news story as well. We are seeing some more concerning stuff. We're seeing China continually crack down on Bitcoin mining. The city of Yan in the Chinese province of Sichuan is, I hope I said that right, is cracking down on Bitcoin mining farms in the area. This is the 5th province in China to block Bitcoin mining following a larger mandate of the central government in May. So this is bad in the short term, and I think one reason why Bitcoin keeps selling off every relief rally is because miners are selling off because they have to. If giant 100 million, billion-dollar mining operations are getting shut down, they're going to have to sell their Bitcoin to remain solvent, remain profitable, and to not make losses. So every relief rally, miners are selling, and that's why I think we've been so choppy. That's why I think Bitcoin's been having such a terrible time pumping, because every relief rally, there's a bunch of selling pressure from miners, and that's being also reflected in the hash rate. The hash rate is a very good confirmation indicator of the state of the price action, because when we saw the Chinese first crack down on Bitcoin mining operations and first having power blackouts in China, that coincided exactly to a major drop in hash rate in the beginning of drop in price action from kind of the mid 60,000 range. So from the all-time high when the blackouts first began and the hash rate first dropped, that was the beginning of the downtrend. And what did we see as soon as hash rate recovered? Price recovered, hash rate dropped, price dropped. Are we seeing a correlation here, folks? So what we need to look out for here in hash rate is a higher high in hash rate, because we're seeing a bit of a recovery here in the short term, but we need further confirmation. And so if we see hash rate continue to recover, then we can be a little bit more confident that Bitcoin is likely to recover as well. And again, guys, these news stories, this FUD with China, this green energy FUD with Bitcoin, what is the result of all this? The result will be that Bitcoin will become more decentralized and greener over long term. That's not a long-term problem. All this FUD we're seeing is very surmountable, and none of this is insurmountable. It's very surmountable. So guys, these problems scream temporary issues. And again, guys, folks, smash that like button. We are 12 likes away from 50 likes. As soon as we get to 50 likes, I'll share with you guys what I'm excited to buy. Something that's definitely on my watch list. One thing that I actually have not bought quite yet, but I might be doing here in the near future if we can get a bit more confirmation with Bitcoin. So folks, smash that like button so we can start showing you guys all that good stuff. Also, this is some very Bitcoin big news here, which is this: the SEC is omitting cryptocurrency from regulation in 2021. So what this headline is essentially telling us is that cryptocurrency is not on the forefront of the SEC's radar quite just yet. And so, guys, regulation in this space is inevitable. If indeed Bitcoin and crypto is the next major asset class, it's just a matter of time before we get more regulation. In 10 years from now, crypto is going to be much like the stock market. So we should expect a bunch of regulation incoming. It will allow further mainstream adoption, further institutional adoption. So it's just a matter of time, although regulations do spook the market in the short term. So very interesting to see, very good to see. Also, guys, this is a very important news story that really kind of explains the state of where we're at, which is China is rolling out 3,000 digital yuan ATMs. So China is rolling out a CBDC, a central bank controlled CBD. Anyways, it's a cryptocurrency version of the country's dollar, controlled by the government. And the fact that China is working on blockchain technology, putting out studies, putting out reports, pushing a digital yuan, really telling of future things to come. And guys, we're seeing Canada, we're seeing the UK, we're seeing Australia, I think even New Zealand, a bunch of countries are working on CBDCs, government-controlled cryptocurrencies. And so, folks, what direction is adoption pointing? It's pointing in one direction: greater and greater adoption. So guys, stay in this market, bull market or bear market, who gives a fuck? We're in the right side, we're in the right trade, we're on the right side of history. We just need to find a way to survive a couple months, worst case scenario, a few years, to really reap those high X's. Because look, we all understand, and we're in crypto because we understand the high return on investment potential. If we gave a shit about 5%, then we would be trading stocks. There's a reason why we're all here, because we don't care about that 5%. We want those X's. And having a long-term perspective when it comes to crypto is one of the main contributing factors that helps us get those gains. So guys, you know what? Without further ado, I want to share with you guys one gem. It's not really a low cap, but it is very much a gem that's on my radar. I'm looking to buy once we get a bit more confirmation with Bitcoin. That being Stormex. This is a very interesting project, a little bit out of the ordinary of what I usually talk about, and it's kind of in its own niche. But I do think this thing is indeed extremely interesting, because what is this project? Stormex is essentially a platform that gives you crypto rewards for purchasing everyday goods. Very interesting project. So it's really like an e-commerce store that, again, just pays you back in crypto. So look, if indeed crypto is here to stay, something like this over the long term is likely to gain further and further adoption as people make more and more money, as people come into this market more and more. Something like this is likely to become more and more attractive. So this is essentially a bet that the space will grow and people will want crypto rewards. That's a bet that I'm willing to make. So again, this is kind of in a niche of its own. There's no it doesn't have kind of a popular narrative to fall back on, like smart contract blockchain, oracles, DeFi. This is kind of DeFi, but again, a little bit of in its own niche, kind of a little bit of an out there different play. Low-ish market cap at $170 million market cap. We are currently down 21% in the last 30 days here, but measuring from all-time highs, this thing is down 80% from all-time highs, folks. Bear market discounts and what could still be a bull market. So folks, come up with your own conclusions. Don't just FOMO into something just because I mentioned it. I am not in this project myself. This is on my watch list, on my radar to potentially buy in once we get a bit more confirmation with Bitcoin. But this is something definitely very worthwhile that I want to bring to your guys' attention, put it on your guys' radar, because again, I think this is a very solid project with long-term staying power that's seemingly very, very undervalued. Bear market discount, what could be a bull market here. We're also forming this massive descending triangle right up against resistance. So we will be testing our trend line that we've held as resistance since April. So it's going to be very interesting to see if we have a relief rally, what kind of pump we have, what way we react off our trend lines here. So again, I would perhaps wait to see what way we break out. This thing's going to break out like this week. Come Monday, if Bitcoin gets a bit more bullish, this thing might make a higher high here. So we'll see. So again, guys, it's Bitcoin's market. We need to wait for Bitcoin to start being bullish again. We need to wait for Bitcoin dominance to pump again and show signs of reversal. So once Bitcoin dominance pumps, meets resistance, and again puts in those lower lows and lower highs, then in that case, something like Stormex is going to look insanely attractive. So keep this thing on your watch list. Don't FOMO. Do your own research. I think this is something interesting. But hey, look, if you do your own research and you say, hey, look, this is garbage, tokenomics are bad, whatever, great. The goal should be to be confident in your own investment strategy, your own understanding, and have an internal confidence of what to you constitutes a good project with good fundamentals and good long-term staying power. So this is something that's good enough to put on my watch list, on my radar, and so I want to bring it to your guys' attention. Also, just to kind of talk about some support levels below us, because look, tons of resistance. Market is bearish. We're below our EMAs. We're below volume. So this is very bearish. And to be honest with you guys, I would say we've seen no signs of trend reversal, so I would say this is likely or not to even break down just because there's so much resistance. We're breaking support. There's no signs of trend reversal. So look, where I would potentially be looking to buy this thing is I've highlighted 3 areas that I think could act as at the very least temporary support. So we're currently at, what are we at here? Just above, just under 2 cents. So for me, this thing at or just above 1 cent would look insanely attractive, because right around this 1 cent range, we have a bunch of sideways price action, we have a bunch of volume, and so this is likely to act as strong support. So if we do indeed find rejection here at or around 1 cent, I would personally myself, I would buy here around 1 cent, just above 1 cent, just above this volume, above the sideways price action. So really from kind of 1 cent to 1 cent 2 is where I'd be looking to buy. Also 1.5 cents is where I could place some buy orders as well. Price reactive level with this high and this low here. This is forming a base, like to act as at the very least temporary support. And then here, a kind of 1 cent 7, 1 cent 8. I would also perhaps place some buy orders there if I was looking dollar cost average on my way down. Drew this wick here, and these 2 daily candles reacting off the same area that the wick did. This is forming a base. Price is reacting off this level. And so I think I've identified kind of 3 zones in which I would place buy orders, and I would look to dollar cost average if I were so inclined. Again, guys, not financial advice. I am not in this project yet myself. I'm personally waiting on the sidelines for a little bit more bullish confirmation with Bitcoin. But again, this is my approach. I would dollar cost average into these buy zones. But if you wanted to play things ultra safe, play things much more safer, wait for that bullish confirmation with Bitcoin, wait to start flipping some resistance into support, wait again for Bitcoin dominance to signal a trend reversal from Bitcoin over to the altcoins. Let's see if I can. Where's my chart? Okay, here. Yeah, so again, wait for that kind of confirmation with Bitcoin dominance, meeting resistance and showing signs of reversal. Because once Bitcoin hits resistance and shows signs of reversals, that is when we know that it's time for alts. And that's when alts will really kind of take the spotlight and again put in a lower low. And once we put in that lower low, that's when I would be looking to take profits on something like Stormex. So again, guys, if we want to play this super safe and super rationally, again, I would buy at resistance and sell at support. A lot of people do the opposite. A lot of people buy high and they sell low. We want to do the opposite, folks. We want to buy low and we want to sell high. And following something like this is one way to go about doing that. So, folks, look, here's the thing. That is pretty much most of what I had planned. Again, guys, if you like this live stream, you got to do me that favor. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and smash that bell icon to be notified of new uploads. We will be going live tomorrow with Messin. Messin is currently out gem hunting in France, so he's going to bring some stuff for us to take a look at here. And then, guys, anything interesting happens, we will definitely be talking about it on this channel. If we break out, if we do something interesting, we're going to be letting you guys know, so make sure you stay tuned. So now, before I wrap up here, let's do a brief Q&A. Let's see if you guys have any kind of bleeding questions here, anything worth talking about here, and then maybe we can get going. So, Joshua Pelton saying, I meant the banking system, ha ha ha. Josh, it's for many reasons: to beat inflation, to gain interest, financial freedom, the ability to build or create platforms, run nodes, decentralize the bank system. Yeah, guys, no, look, I believe in the technology of the space as well. Like crypto is a way for the everyday people to participate in a financial system that's controlled by the people and not centralized entities that's in their financial interest to do what's best for their financial interests, not what's best for you. So again, crypto is a way for anyone to participate in a financial system that's run by the people, and the attempt is for the people as well, and to opt out of a financial system that's controlled for the benefit of the wealthy. So I do believe in the space long term. I do agree that the digital yuan is indeed a danger, but it's a way of the world. We're going to get there anyways. So Ant Stack says, smash the like button. aMillionortheMoon is the hedge fund. Appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words. Why are you guys into cryptos? It's for the candy. Sure, 100%, man. And also digital currency is only different because there's no bank ledger involved. Yeah, tell XRP that. So, folks, you know what? That's pretty much most of what I want to get off my back. If you guys want to support us, if you like what we do, if you want more access to ourselves, and if you guys want access to what we're buying, when, price targets, entries, that kind of thing, become a VIP Discord member. You get access to our Patreon. We will be adding even more and more value. We have a bunch of plans to add more value to our group moving forward. And once we start to implement some of these major changes, we will be making changes, and the people that got in early are going to greatly benefit from being early. So make sure, if you've been sitting on the sideline, if you're on the fence, get in early before we implement some of these major changes, because the people got in early. We will make sure that our early supporters are going to benefit from being early. So folks, check out our VIP Discord group. Again, link for that is to our Patreon down in the description below. And so, you know, I think I'll start to wrap up here. I do see one question. Are you still in MARSH on Marshall? I am still in on Marshall. Guys, look, a lot of these low caps just absolutely crash nothing. And it's because the market crashed into nothing. You know, all these altcoins didn't lose their value because they all of a sudden got shit. It's because Bitcoin crashed. And so, yeah, on Marshall is a project that I've been in for a while. I think I got it around, let's see, what did I get in that? I have it written down somewhere here. Give me a second. At $1.30. Around $1 there. I'm in profit. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, I'm in on Marshall. I still like this thing over the long term. It's a DeFi index thing for developers. Very similar to the graph, but for DeFi. So I like this thing. Long term. I've in fact been staking on Marshall on PancakeSwap, earning like 80% APY. So if you have some on Marshall, or if you have some PancakeSwap lying around, you can stake it on PancakeSwap and earn 80% APY on Marshall. And token release in July, I think. Yes, Dave, thank you for bringing that up. On Marshall does have a token release coming up. We actually put out a video on Marshall a couple months ago talking about the details of that token unlock. And I actually forget the details of that token unlock because, again, we made this video like months ago. But if you look up on Marshall and aMillionortheMoon, there should be a video where we talk about our exact kind of like self strategy for on Marshall, where we go over kind of major events coming up with a Marshall. So yeah, again, if you look up on Marshall, Moon, this video here, Take Profit Strategy, is where we talk about the unlock dates, the token supply, and really delve into the details of what on Marshall is about. So make sure you go check that out. I still like this project. I still think it has a good long-term potential. Again, it's just a very kind of new, unproven project, and these kinds of things get slaughtered once the market goes down. Because look, at the end of the day, guys, even though I do like this thing and I think it has solid fundamentals, this market is driven by fear and greed. It's 100% driven by fear and greed. And so once the market gets greedy again, if Bitcoin can start looking bullish, flipping resistance into support, and the market gets greedy, these alts will recover. If the market's fearful again, everyone's going to want to sell it, because the thing about these low caps is that these low caps are driven by retail, and retail has weak hands and will sell once people get fearful. They will buy once the market's greedy. Retail is the opposite of what you should do. They FOMO buy tops and they panic sell bottoms because they're driven by fear and greed, not necessarily kind of a well thought out long-term strategy. I like to do the opposite. I like to buy bottoms and sell tops. Unfortunately, again, with Bitcoin, I will practice risk management if we put in lower lows. Yes, I'm technically, I suppose, selling a bottom, but I'm doing so based off a strategy, a plan, because every lower low is bearish confirmation, and it makes it more likely that we could break down below 30. And I think a breakdown below 30 would constitute a bearish breakdown below a head and shoulders, and a breakdown from this head and shoulders, the price target for that is bottomless. So I'm using 30,000 as the inflection point to call a bear market, and each lower low that we put in makes it more likely that a bear market could come. So I'm using lower lows as an increase in likelihood that the bear market could happen, and so that's why I will take profit each lower low we make at 33,300, 31,000, and 30,000. But as long as we put in these higher lows, then we have the possibility to uptrend. And just to kind of wrap up here, folks, again, ultimately, we need to wait for macro confirmation, all right? If we want to know it's a bear market, we need to put in a lower low below 30K. As long as we hold 30K, there's some hope. If we want to be confident in the bull market, and if we want to be confident that Bitcoin go to 100,000 and above, we need to get above this goddamn red trend line here. We need to not only get above this red trend line, but we need to do this, come back down to retest, hold it as support, and only in that case can we enter price discovery once again and go to 100,000 and above. And this is very significant, again, guys. If we look at the previous cycles, 2019 false bull market, if we draw a trend line from the peak here, the next lower high, came back up to retest, it got rejected, confirmation of the bear trend. Even during the 2018 bear market, beginning of the bear market, if we draw a trend line, all-time high, next lower high, went back up to retest it, got rejected, confirmation of the bear market. So even in a goddamn bear market, we have relief rallies to retest resistance, and we haven't had that. We have not had a true relief rally, and we have not retested this trend line. So until we retest this trend line, we don't know if it's a bull market or bear market. And again, if we come up here, retest this trend line, and find rejection, that is super, super worrisome. So again, guys, look, anytime anything interesting happens, anytime we're at a major inflection point, we will be letting you guys know. Do not forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, and smash that bell icon to be notified of new uploads. Go check out every link in the description below, and I'll be a happy camper. Ultimately, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, take care.